Hello, I'm Malcolm West. This is Project Management Basics, everything you need to make your project a success. This is episode 8 and we're going to be talking about reporting today. So like all the previous sessions, practical, minimum jargon, looking at the real tools you can use to make this happen, and about 10-minute sessions. So reporting progress. Why do we want to do that? Well, it's an important part of project management. It sits in the same communications area that we talked about in session 5. So we have the project manager sat in the middle between the contributors, the people delivering the project, and the stakeholders, the people above receiving, involved in the project. And we think mainly, especially on a smaller project perhaps, as the project manager communicating up their reporting, often to their customer or the sponsor of the project, about how it's progressing. Perhaps routine reporting, sometimes reporting specific incidents as they happen, as soon as you know about them. So most of that reporting goes up. Actually, there's also some information coming back down. That can be feedback to the report that's given. The report might be about a major issue that's happened, and you're needing feedback and guidance on how to proceed with it, or perhaps that you might be thinking you might exceed one of the tolerances on the project and you need advice about how to proceed with that. So communication, when it's good, is always two-way, even if it's just feedback to say, yeah, that's fine, keep going, but it's good to think about it as a two-way process. It's not just you throw a report over the wall and hopefully somebody reads it. But also, of course, especially on a larger project, there is an element of reporting up to the project manager. Now, I haven't shown this line as going straight through because it's very much the job of the project manager to bring together reports from the different contributors, because there may be a number of different teams working on your project. They're providing you with information about their aspect, and it's up to you to pull all that together into a report that goes up to the stakeholders. They don't want lots of separate reports on different topics. They want a combined report about the whole of the project. And of course, in the same way as your team members might tell you about what's going on, you may need to give them feedback on some of those aspects as well. And some aspects may come down all the way from stakeholders, changes in policy, etc., which are reported up through you and then come back and flow down. So there is that flow of information between those different parts of the communication sphere. So what goes in typical reports? If we think about a routine reporting content, the sort of thing that goes in, people call them monthly reports, progress reports, highlight reports, status reports, board reports, all sorts of different names for the routine reporting of how a project is progressing. A good example is this one, which is to talk about the last period. So we've got a period to our reports. They might be monthly, they might be weekly, they might be quarterly, but whatever that period is, you're going to do a report. If it's monthly, first day of one month, first day of the next month, first day of the month after that. So the period is the time between the last report and the current report, and the current report and the next report. So it's good to say what was supposed to be happening last period, did we do it? What's supposed to be happening next period, and how are we planning and arranging for it? That's the focus, one period to the next. We're then going to talk about issues and changes, what's come up, which we need to deal with and how we're dealing with it. And as part of that, we talk about whether it sits within the tolerance and what the status of the tolerances are, and if it's going to breach it, it might have had a separate report to go with it to ask specifically about that condition. Same thing about risks. I like to think about issues and changes ahead of risks because they're happening now. Risks are something that might happen in the future. Very important to understand those, of course, but they are that bit further away. Finances then also. Not everybody, I have to say, manages finances on their projects. It's good practice to do that. By finances, we could think about resources, the people that we've got working on the project, not just the money aspect of it. And how are we going to make this report? Well, you can make a report in lots of different ways. As long as it covers the content that you're expected to give, it can be made by a phone call. It can be a presentation standing up in front of a group of people. It can be noting a meeting. It could be made by email. It could be perhaps more what people are generally imagining, a written report which goes on file and is passed around and read by various people. That tends to be the more common format for more substantial projects, but here we're thinking about our little project, and it might just be a phone call, a presentation, an email, etc. So all those things are possible. Let's go away and have a look at how we might actually produce one. We're going to look at a written report here using the tools that we're familiar with already. So let's go and do that. Okay, so we're going to open up our Community Edition. It's generally the point we're starting from, and go and open our project. Here we go, and it's this one, Office Move Example. And in the delivery phase, we have the document for a highlight report. This is the routine report we're going to be using here. I can there may be many, of course, as my project goes on for a number of months. I'm generally thinking about monthly reporting probably. So I might already have one there. I might want to add a new one. So I can come to Add File, come to the Template Library, find a highlight report like that, and I'm going to say this is going to be my Feb highlight report. So that adds me that new template. It's the same template as the original one, but I'm adding one for the next month. We generally don't, some files you version the same version of the file. Reports, often you keep that sort of snapshot of it's this month, and then there's the next month, and then there's next month, and you build a library of them up, often over a period of time. So I'm going to check that template out and start to work on it. It's going to open in Word, and this is using one of the Prince2 templates again. We think they're really good because they've got good section headers and good guidance built into them about what it is you should do. So you'll see broadly it follows the things that I was talking about earlier, and we've got the sections here to put things in, useful hints and tips about what to do, and especially down at the end here we've got some guidance on how to complete what sort of things to put in there. So we've got our sections. I might write my general status summary. Actually, I like to think about getting all the data in first, and then it's easier to write the status when you've seen all the data. Generally, personally, I prefer to work that way around. So let's get some data in. What we're going to talk about is pulling that data from the places where we've been collecting it already. So I'm going to come here to next reporting period, and I'm just going to go back to here and open up my plan. So I've got plan and project controls. Here's my file for that. I'm just going to check that out as well, because often you find actually as you start to pull it together that you've not quite updated something, so you might update it a bit more, check it back in, grab the data out of it. So here we've got a planner. It's got our plans, risks and issues information, and actually I can use this to grab the data out to go and put in my report. I can do that two ways. Actually, Planner gives you a great ability to just print the whole thing, what you're currently looking at, as essentially a report, and you might do that from up here. Print preview allows you to go and to see that, and so in this case it's producing me a relatively simple one using the current views that we've got set up within the tool. So there's my Gantt chart, task list, risks, issues, risk and issue responses, calendar, milestone timeline. That brings out all the things that are currently set up, packaged for me, and I can then print that, to some place. But actually, I can grab those things separately if I want to, and by using a view, I can get a particular set of things that I'm interested in. So if I come from Home to Views and Filters, select a view, I'm going to pick the month ahead, 1 month ahead view, and that's going to compress this down to look at just the activities happening over the next month. To make it easier to see, it puts a buffer of a week on either end, and it runs from today's date. So I'm going to take that image, and I can do that simply by right clicking, copying Gantt chart as image to clipboard, and I can come back to my Word file and I can simply drop that in there. There we are, and I can come back again and I can get that task list. Now if I'm interested in the task list, of course, not always going to be, but in this case I'm going to grab the task list. I can drop it as a table, or I can get it as an image as well, so we'll get it as an image this time, and we'll come and put that in underneath like that. So we've got task list and Gantt type display. Now of course I can put into here anything I want to based on these. I can change this view to get something slightly different should I need to, and the same thing applies to my risks and issues. So I can come to the risk view. We saw what we were going to get, and of course I can do exactly the same thing again, copy the risk image or copy the risk list, same things. But I can also here go and get some charts, so I can see my chart, stats, etc., and I might want to get my stats, copy that to clipboard, and I'm going to come back to my Word file and I'm going to drop that into risks and issues here like that. So I've got my risk and issue stats included. So I can put all that data in really quite easily. I mean, our commercial products actually, it does all this for you. It'll do all the merge of all the content in. You don't have to go doing it by hand. This is the free one. You need to do it a little bit by hand, but you're getting the same sort of feel. And so I can easily drop all that data in there. Then I can come in and write my commentaries over the top. I've got the data to hand. I can say, yeah, this is what we're doing next month, and we're going to need to focus on this and that and the other. So I can build my report up like that from the data we're holding. Same sort of thing for finances. It's in a spreadsheet here. It's got some charts. We can grab that stuff out, drop it in. Same for the benefits as well, if we want to review those, and they're often looked at as part of the financial package. And I can get all that how I want it. It's just a Word file, so I can edit it around if I want to, save it, and store it back in the system. So I'm going to save, close, and check that one back in. So we'll come back to our highlight report and check it in. And then I can print that out, and that's going to be the one I give to my boss, send by email, etc. It's there. I know exactly what I sent them, and sometimes I might even record that by dropping the email in here as well that I've sent off. But this is about getting a standardized approach to your reporting, one that looks professional. Again, it's all about building confidence with the stakeholders when they receive a really nice looking standardized report every month, which looks like you're on top of it, that the plans are completely filled in, there's changes to the risk and issues because they've been updated. All that seems like simple stuff, but it builds a real sense of confidence that you know what you're doing, and that you are in control of what's going on in the project. And that's what this reporting, a key part of that is trying to demonstrate. So let's just come back and wrap up with our slides. So this is reporting. As I mentioned in one of the earlier ones, our sort of delivery is a mixture of communications, issues, reporting, perhaps risks, perhaps some replanning. A lot of these topics, they're not linear. We're going back over and recycling around through some of them a number of times until, of course, we've finished our delivery, and then we're going to get to closing, and that's what we're going to do in the next session. Thank you very much.